by Aston Martin is a V8 Vantage S manual. It's officially an SP10. It's got the lightweight seats and it's ceramic grey like all the SP10s were, with black interior. So I've always been into my cars. I think I've always had vaguely interesting cars, apart from the really first ones. My first interesting car was a 1380 Stage 3 Avon Mini, which was a great little thing, and enjoyed that a lot. And then I got a V8 MGB GT, which was built up from an old shell, a California shell, and that had, everything was modified on that. Everything was built to my specification. Great car. Then the kids came along, family cars came along, and then in 2004-05, whenever it was, first saw the Vantage pictures and thought, one day, gotta have one of those. Simple as that. And mostly the looks, I guess, but it's a sports car. I've always liked sports cars. So when the opportunity came along, we're talking 6 years ago now. I'd had V6 Alphas up until then, a couple of V6 Alphas, and so it was a big step for me really, and I decided I'd get a 5-year-old early 4.7, and that was a lovely car, California Sage Green, and enjoyed it. Didn't give me a lot of trouble, wasn't too expensive to run, so I thought, yeah, I'm happy with this. But there's always something else. So I then test drove basically all the other Vantages in the next couple of years that I owned that car, and was tempted by most of the things I drove. V12's a great car, love the V12, but actually for the mileage I do and some of the stuff I do, I'm not so keen on carbon ceramics as an ownership proposition, and the V8 is the better handling car. A lot of people aren't going to like that, but it's true. So when a manual V8 S with lightweight seats came up, that was it. Simple choice, bought the car. No, don't like it. Sorry. It's okay. It's not as nice a looking car in any way, I don't think, as my Vantage. And however hard I've tried, I can't get used to the front of the new car. Yeah, it just doesn't appeal to me in the same way, so I can't see myself buying one of those. I know they've now bought out a manual one. I wouldn't have wanted an automatic one, but still. And it's too expensive. They priced the car too high. It's too expensive. Can't see myself changing to one. So the Vantage S is obviously more sports car-like, if you like, than the standard Vantage, but a lot of that has been smudged by a lot of the Vantage S changes being adopted in the 2012 Vantage. But they're still compromised cars. You know, I think you probably look at it, and the customer base for Aston Martin, from young enthusiasts, petrol heads to cravat crew, you know, it's a huge spread. And the car, I think, is built as a compromise to try and please everyone. And they obviously shouldn't have done that, because they had the DB9 and they had the Vantage, and they could have made them, differentiated them a lot more, I think. For me, it's a sports car I want. I want it to have some GT potential, but it's predominantly a sports car. I want it to drive like a sports car, and so I want it to make as much like a sports car as it could be. I think most people who are realistic know that the clutch in the V8 is substandard, really. When I first test drove a V12 Vantage, manual V12 Vantage, I almost couldn't believe it was the same gearbox, but it is essentially the same gearbox, but just a very different clutch. And to know that you could have that on the V8 with a decent clutch, a strong clutch, more durable clutch, and a light flywheel, which is going to allow the engine to respond as it should do, it's a no-brainer, really. And I didn't wait until my clutch had worn out. I didn't want to wait all that time, so I just had it done as soon as the car was out of warranty, and that was always the plan. Other mods, so I've had the exhaust manifolds done, the tubular manifolds, 200 cell cats, and took a couple of goes to get that at exactly the spec I wanted for the sound I wanted. But I did that because without those manifolds you're basically wasting power. It's not all about power, but there's no point wasting power, so that makes it's only logical when you're doing the clutch to have that done at the same time, and that's fantastic. The power is welcome, and the sound is fantastic. Once we got it to the spec that I wanted, just love it how it is. I've kept the valve back box because I want it to be quiet sometimes, and it's a fantastic compromise to be able to have it loud and leery when I want it, and quiet on the motorway or when I'm being woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning on call. It starts getting complicated because there's a lot of different back boxes is my understanding, and the one on mine on the SP10 Vantage S is quite a loud back box, and with the first version of the exhaust we had the manifolds which are unchanged, and then 200 cell cats, then an X pipe to try and take a little bit of the edge off the volume, and then the standard back box. And for me it was just too loud at full chat, and the X pipe lost some of the burble. It was great at the top end, a real howl, but lost some of the burble, and I didn't like losing that. So the second version, the X pipe went, and we put little silencers, mini silencers, baffles immediately behind the cats, and the original tiny H pipe in the midsection back, and that gave the same character as the original exhaust, but just a little bit louder and with all the extras that you get with the manifolds and the cats.